All right, everybody. I really thank everybody for jumping on in their afternoons to get on this to learn a little bit about how cyber insurance and some of the requirements around it. This is not a highly technical, it's a very high level, just from a business owner or manager's view of cybersecurity. And I'll also supply my email. So if you want to reach out to me and throw any questions at me that be a little more technical or a little more detailed in the insurance or the controls or the compliance around it, feel free to reach out to me. But with no further ado, let's jump into 3 simple steps business owners must take to prepare for new cyber insurance requirements, and 1 tip you probably never thought of. And let's jump into the most important question is, first, who am I and why should you even care what I have to say? I like to always start off with what my mission is. You see, I'm on a mission to protect 1 million people. And part of that mission is I'm going through and I'm educating folks on ways they can make sure they have protected themselves when it comes to cybersecurity. A little bit of my background. I'm actually with Troynet. Troynet is a technology consulting firm, and we focus on business operations and goals and how technology can help achieve those goals. I'm currently the CEO, and I'm like a lot of you guys, either been in an own position or understand what it is to manage. I had to learn a lot of hard lessons about running a business and managing business. I've dealt with a lot of ups and downs. I've dealt with different parts from marketing to sales to IT. I've made tons of mistakes. I've taken the easy route before taking the right route, and I've overcome a lot of problems. But luckily, my greatest gift was the ability to learn from others. And that's why I'm looking to share what I have with everybody here. I always say, I may run a technology consulting firm, but I'm not in the business of technology. I'm in the business of helping companies. That's why I've created a lot of content. I've given back to the community and talked on different subjects of things that's close to my heart is running a business, and because I'm a technologist, how that technology fits into a business. And I'm looking to share what I know and what I have. And if I can impact 1,000 companies and make a difference in how they achieve their goals, then I've achieved my goal. So today, what I'd like to educate on a little bit is on cybersecurity. So let's jump in. Why now? Why is this important to look at right now? Do you know that cyber insurance companies are losing money right now? We're talking significant losses when it comes to having to pay out for cybersecurity events. Why is that happening? Why is that happening now? Well, there's a couple of components. First thing, risk is increasing when it comes to ransomware. You've got a high increase in response cost. Replacement costs are going up. The cybersecurity hygiene has not gotten any better for most companies. And we have a lack of instant response plans in most companies, which makes it so it takes a very long time for people to recover, which then increases business interruption. Now, I know it's a lot, but what am I talking about though? Let me try to dig into what these things mean to you. Well, when a company's hit with ransomware, it costs them money. And often that amount of money is measured by how much you will actually pay in order to get your data back. Because when it comes down to it, the criminals that are out there hacking into networks, they're interested in getting you to pay them. And to give you some type of idea of how much the ransom has increased over the last year, it's gone. Can you believe this? It's gone from an average of 300,000 to about 950,000. Basically, it's gone from about 300,000 to just shy of $1 million that's being paid out. So that means that when someone does get attacked by ransomware, they end up having to pay more today than they did in the prior years. Ransomware isn't the only thing that's going up. You see, hackers have another method, which is to break into somebody's email box. And then once they hack their email, they monitor it for a while. They're looking for signs of wiring of funds, like possibly sending money from one person to another or paying of an invoice. And then what they will do is they'll actually infiltrate that email conversation. They'll modify and change the content of the email to get you to send funds to the wrong person. This is called a business compromise, and that's also up. It's not just up in the amount of money that hackers are getting people to wire, but it's also up in the frequency that this is happening. You see, in 2020, 65% of organizations suffered from a business email compromise. In 2021, that went up to 77%. That means 77% of organizations have experienced a business email compromise, And that's actually going up in the amount that's being falsely wired. So for example, the FBI says that there's a 65% increase in global exposed losses between 2019 and 2021. And to think we're in 2023, so you know that's actually increased even more right now. So we're actually seeing an increase in the amount of money that people are wiring to the wrong person. So what this means is both impact and likelihood is going up, which means there's a tremendous risk. There's a tremendous increase in risk that's out there right now. Now, why is that a bad thing? Why should you care? Well, insurance companies don't like risk. That's the worst thing they can see. There's also increase in response costs. This cost associated with responding to a cyber incident. When you reach out and you call your insurance company about an incident, the amount they're going to have to spend for a security expert or an IT expert or somebody that understands forensics or legal experts, those costs are going up because labor rates, as we all know, is also going up. So not only is response costs going to go up, but replacement costs as well as going up. There's over 6% increase in tech budgets over the last year. And 1 in 4 companies out there actually increased their IT spend because of a security incident. So we're seeing an increase in actual tools that's needed to go through and actually respond to a lot of events that's happening, what's going on right now. Next, we've got inadequate cyber hygiene. This is something else, which means preventable events are happening anyway because users aren't doing simple things like changing their passwords. With remote users, we got all of these people who've been working from home where there aren't normally security controls like a corporate firewall. I mean, let's think about this. How many of the people on your team bought their firewall at Walmart, Staples, or Best Buy? As those people come back into the office, we're seeing more and more attacks from those machines that have been affected while working at home. The next piece we're seeing is the complete lack of an instant response plan. And if anybody here says, what's that mean? That means you don't have one. What's an instant response plan? Well, it's a plan that goes through and identifies the steps that a business is going to take to get hit with a ransomware or if they have a business email compromise. And guess what? 77% of businesses out there do not have a written plan. Finally, we have business interruption expenses. And basically what this comes down to is there's an increase in the amount it costs insurance companies when there's a business interruption due to a ransomware or business email compromise happening within the organization. So what does all that mean? Well, that means cyber insurance companies are not doing so hot when it comes to their profitability and their bottom line. And if you're an insurance company right now, what do you think you would do? What would you do? Well, you'd probably go through and you would deny renewals. As in, you wouldn't allow people to renew their existing cyber insurance policy, especially if they have been breached. And you'd also go through and you would tighten the standards that you use to investigate and determine what should be in place for your new clients coming in, and also for any renewal you plan on approving. You probably would also raise your rates, and we're seeing that as well, because standalone cyber insurance coverage has increased about 92%. And this is only in 2021. Again, we're in 2023. So the question we're going to talk about today is, as a business owner, what can you do about this? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through 3 things that you can do. 3 simple steps. Here are the 3 steps that you can take to make sure that you have the right cyber insurance in place and you're properly protected. So let me start. Let me go through. First, make sure you're covered. And what do I mean by this? Well, you should really consider making sure you have a cyber security policy. And the reason that you should have this is for the reason that we just went through earlier. The complexity, the frequency, and the cost of these risks are increasing. So you should make sure that you have cybersecurity policy in place and it's ready to be used. Now, there's a couple of things I want to mention. The first thing is that cyber insurance isn't really part of a normal insurance. It's not a standard component of your normal insurance policy. So if you have a normal business insurance, that's not a true cybersecurity policy. You need to go out and get a separate cybersecurity policy and make sure you talk to the insurance agent if you haven't about this policy. But I know you're probably thinking to yourself, well, I don't need cyber insurance. And the reason that this often comes up is you're thinking, hey, I'm too small. My business does not need to have something like this in place. The reason that people think this is that small business, when they get hit by hackers, they really never make it to the news. You always hear about the big guys. But let me just share with you a quick story that our security team ran into. You see, there was a small accounting firm that contacted us because they're having trouble with one of their clients. Specifically, they were trying to perform an e-file, and what they found was one of the users, which actually happened to be one of the partners, and it was an 8-person company, was phished. And the attackers used his access to access their cloud-based tax software. Once they did that, they filed 180 fraudulent tax returns. And that made it so the IRS no longer allowed them to do e-filing. I mean, can you imagine not being able to do electronic filing for one of your clients if you're an accounting firm? What kind of impact would that have? The reason I'm telling this isn't because accounting firms are more at risk. The reason I'm telling you this story is because this is an 8-person company. Attackers don't care whether you're a small business or you're a big business. They don't care whether the business is in the cloud or not. They're interested in going after everyone. And what it all comes down to is everyone can get hacked. And this is the truth that everybody has to realize. Everyone can get hacked. And everyone needs some type of cybersecurity insurance so they have a way to pay for the event after it happens. So our first step, I just want to make sure you have a policy. All right, step number 2, prepare to renew your policy. You see, I mentioned earlier that insurance companies hate paying ransoms. They hate being responsible for footing the bill when an attack happens. So they're going to go through and they're actually going to assess your company's network and deny renewals. Once you get a renewal denied, or if you're trying to get a cyber insurance for the first time and you're denied coverage, it's very hard to go through and get insurance afterwards. Think about it. When you go through and you apply for your insurance, they ask you if you've ever been denied insurance coverage. If you have to answer yes for that question, that'll put up a red flag for the insurance company. So how do you go through and how do you assess your network? How do you go through and analyze it? Well, one way to do this is through something called a self-assessment questionnaire. I have a picture of one of these on the screen. You may have seen, if you did anything with insurance policy, you may have seen this before. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and give you a couple of questions that'll come up that I want to make sure that you're prepared to answer. So here's a simple 5-question analysis that you can do sitting here today, right now, and it'll help you understand whether or not you have the right things in place when it comes to protecting yourself with an insurance policy. So the questions are, do you have multi-factor authentication for email and sensitive information? Do you have backups and are they working? Do you have an update antivirus installed on all your computers? Do you have a written documented breach response plan? And do you have an updated active firewall? But how can you check each one of these yourself? I told you already, I'm going to make it easy. They can do it right now while you're sitting here. So let's kind of go through it. So instead of me asking you, do you have MSA set up for email and sensitive information? I want to ask you this. Are you prompted when you log into your email or when you log into your cloud platform, whichever one you have, are you prompted for a code that's defined in your phone? If you do, and you do get prompted, and you have a multi-factor authentication app on your phone, then yes, you have MFA. If not, then you don't. Simple and quick. Backups, another way to think about it. Another way to think about, do you have backups and are you sure they're working? Is do this. Question is, when's the last time your tech team told you how long it took for a backup to recover all your data and servers during your annual recovery test? These are the types of questions that you should be getting answers to, but it's not by asking your team, it's for them to come to you and they should be saying, hey, I just want to let you know that I did your backups. It took 3 hours to get all the data and servers back up. And this way you know if there's an event. Them telling you this is a great way for you to know that everything's working right and the way you expected. And it also gives you a timeline It gives you the ability to know how much time it's actually going to take if there's an event that happens. So if you're not having that conversation with your tech team and they're not freely sharing that, that's a red flag to me that you may have to look at what's really going with your backup and your recovery. Do you have up-to-date antivirus? Okay. What we've found is when you go through an audit of a network, that 20% of them have at least one computer that does not have antivirus installed. So the easiest way for you to check is to look at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, right next to the clock, hover over each of the little icons. You're looking for something that says either antivirus or endpoint protection. That's a good sign whether you have your computers protected. Next, do you have a written, documented breach response plan? And I know you probably think to yourself, well, this is not my responsibility. And I hear that a lot. And here's the thing, as an owner or a manager, you're responsible. You're responsible for your team, but you're also responsible for communicating when there's a breach happening, which means talking to your clients, talking to possibly the media, or talking to other organizations that may have been breached because of the event that happened on your watch. So make sure that you have this plan documented and includes things like how you'll be doing all of your communications. And finally, do you have an up-to-date firewall technology? And a great way to figure this out is to check and see if you're paying subscriptions to your firewall vendor. If you are, then that's likely you have something in place. If you're unsure, you can also reach out to your bookkeeper or your CFO and your team just to verify and just to find out. Well, those are the 5 questions that if you go through these, you'll get a baseline sign of what's going on. And I mentioned quick and simple things you can check yourself. It's a good place to start when it comes to figuring out whether you are or have not have the right tools in place. If you can't answer yes to every one of those, and those are the basic, simple questions, that's not the full list of questions. Those are quick 5 questions you can go through. If you cannot say yes for sure, you definitely will struggle to find an insurance provider to cover you, or you'll have to pay a tremendous premium for it. And the thing is, ultimately, you as a business owner is responsible. You're responsible for the answer that goes into the self-assessment questionnaire, because if you just hand it off to somebody else, you may hand it off to your IT person, and that person may want to say yes to everything. You're responsible because ultimately, if the claim gets denied, it's going to impact you, going to impact your business. All right, the next step and the last step we're going to go through is avoid being a victim. And you probably think to yourself, well, I don't understand what do you mean by avoid being a victim. Trust me, when it comes down to it, you can eventually avoid becoming a victim of a hacking event. I know some of you today are probably thinking, I don't have to invest in cybersecurity because I have insurance. You went through the first step and the second step, and you got those things right. You don't have to invest in cybersecurity. Do you believe that? Well, you have health insurance, don't you? I mean, think about it. If you have health insurance, would you do something to jeopardize your health? Would you go into a room that has a big label like this, that has a radioactive material on the door? Would you do that? No way, because that'd be risky. It would make you sick for a very long time. Well, a data breach or a ransomware will make your business very sick for a very long time. And what we're often seeing that people assume that they have insurance, so they don't worry as much about having a breach or something like that happening. But remember, if we look back, remember that small accounting firm that we talked about? It took them over 2 years to recover from that event because they had to go out and market and get new clients, and they had to rebuild their reputation in the community. And it basically set them back over 2 years. You might also be thinking, that I don't have any data that hackers would want. You're probably thinking you're not an accounting firm, or you're not a lawyer, or not somebody that had finance. I don't have data that hackers really want to get their hands on. Well, even if you don't have data that hackers wanted, like zero data, nothing that hackers wanted, I want you to think about all the other people you interact with, either your company or your clients, because hackers look for hosts to infect other companies. Imagine, how would you feel if a hacker used your email to send a ransom virus to all of your friends and business contacts? Imagine how would you feel as they called you and expressed how upset they were. You can avoid being a victim because 93% of security breaches are actually preventable. But how? How do you avoid being a victim? And one surefire way to do this is to have someone inspect your network. Now, what are they expecting? They're expecting for vulnerabilities, risk, and misconfiguration that allow hackers to get in. Let me say one last thing, and that is something you may have not thought about, or if not, you have not taken it seriously. A very simple step that you could take is doing a third-party assessment. Our security team has built the most comprehensive cyber insurance analysis available. We've applied over 13 different cybersecurity insurance assessments, and we'll be doing a complimentary one for you if you're interested to go through and figure out whether you have the right tools in place to go and renew your cyber insurance. Most people are probably thinking, well, I have an IT person that's responsible for this. Ultimately, when it comes down to cybersecurity, everyone's responsible. You may also be thinking, or you even want to tell yourself that you're completely protected. Or are you absolutely sure? Are you confident that you are protected? And if so, how do you know? You may also be wondering, do you have to get your IT team involved? I mean, you can decide to get them involved or not. We can work through this either way, but in the real world, hackers will not give a heads up to the IT department. When we're doing this, we don't need credentials. Going to the chase, end of the day is, I highly recommend anybody that has either dealing with cyber insurance or meeting any compliance, or even just a small, large, or medium company, they should always look at getting a third-party assessment for their organization. That tells them, that reinforces what they already think they have, and that may expose and open up things that they did not know that they have that's a flaw and a problem. We're now offering a complimentary assessment. You may think, hey, what's the catch to it? There's only one catch to it. Because this is truly a fee-based assessment that we normally charge our clients, we're offering it to only 2 complimentary this month. Whoever signs up, the site below, troynet.com/insurance. And you may ask why we're doing this. Remember before I said, I'm in the business of helping companies. And our way of helping companies is to sometimes give back, be able to help and assist companies that may not realize, hey, they need to just do more when it comes to cyber. So we're making this offer out there. If anybody's interested, go to troynet.com/insurance and you'll get my slide decks do not want to cooperate with me. And you get my info, and I also promise my email that I'd have it there. My email is wroy@troynet.com. But if you're interested, like I said, troynet.com/insurance, put your information in. And the first 2 companies that sign up, we'll give them complimentary. Anybody else will be either put on a waiting list, or you can pay for the full assessment. We have package bundle for that. Other than that, guys, I really appreciate it. As I mentioned before, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. Everybody have a great day.